Breaking tonight, new reaction coming after former Defense Secretary Bob Gates slammed Donald Trump when it comes to foreign policy. Gates has served under 8 different administrations, from Obama to Bush and Carter to Reagan, but he says he's never seen anything quite like Trump. Watch.
I have some real issues with things he said about national security policy and some concerns. I think there are some contradictions. You can't have a trade war with China and then turn around and ask them to help you on North Korea. I have no idea what his policy would be in terms of dealing with ISIS. I worry a little bit about his admiration for Vladimir Putin. One of the things that makes it challenging for me is that he seems to think that he has all the answers and that he doesn't need any advice from staff or anybody else.
Would you serve him if he asked?
Well, I learned a long time ago never to say never, but let's just say that would be inconceivable to me.
Joining me now, Mike Huckabee, former Republican presidential candidate and the former governor of Arkansas. Dan Senor is a former advisor to both the Romney-Ryan campaign and the Pentagon. Great to see you both.
Good to be with you.
So Robert Gates, not necessarily a Trump fan from the sound of it. I realize that some voters out there don't care what Bob Gates thinks, but most people who pay attention say he's a straight shooter. What do you say, Governor?
I think he's a straight shooter. I think he's reflecting what he believes, but I don't know how well he knows Donald Trump. And I think the people who do know Donald Trump know that Donald Trump is a man who surrounds himself with people who knows things he doesn't know, and he does listen to them. There is
about that question about you can't have a trade war with China and then turn around and ask them to help you on North Korea.
There are a lot of things that you say in politics that you say publicly that you do because it's a posturing. It's part of the process. And then you also are talking to people in intimate conversations and bringing them in. It's part of the legislative process.
So what you are saying is it's a bunch of baloney when you're running, but then you get smart people around you when you're in.
It is not about baloney. No, it's about making sure that there is a clear indication publicly that the United States of America is not going to back down, no matter who it is, whether it's China or whether it's North Korea. I don't think that you're going to see Russia flying fighters 30 feet over a Navy destroyer if Donald Trump is president.
Go ahead, Dan.
Look, for the last 8 years, many Republicans, you, me both, have critiqued this president, President Obama, for not being tough enough on our adversaries and being too tough on our allies. Look at one of our biggest adversaries, someone working against U.S. interests today, is Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump, I mean, you may know what he says behind the scenes, but I'm just reacting, as I think Secretary Gates is, to what he says in public. Donald Trump revels in the flattery from Putin. He basically wants to, he says he wants to withdraw from NATO, so basically the collapse of NATO, the collapse of Europe, which would be a dream for Putin. He basically has the same policy as it relates to Assad that Putin has. You just go issue after issue after issue. Here we critique Hillary Clinton's reset. I mean, Donald Trump would be weaker on Putin than Hillary Clinton.
See, I disagree, Dan. I don't think he would be weak at all. I think he has a respect for Putin because Putin is just the kind of guy, when he sees a weak president like Obama, he just shoves it up his nostrils. I don't think he would be doing that with Donald Trump.
On month one or year one of a Trump presidency, I hate to say those words, a Trump presidency, but let's just say year one of a Trump presidency, you don't think that Vladimir Putin would say, all right, I've got a friend in the White House who's got my back.
No.
So I'm going to invade Estonia. I'm going to invade Lithuania. In fact, this President Trump has collapsed NATO, which has been a pillar of the American transatlantic alliance. I'm going to see what I can get away with. China, another strategic threat to the United States.
I think you're talking about Obama. That is not.
This is word for word on what Donald Trump on China. Trump has praised the way the Chinese government clamped down on the Tiananmen Square massacre, something I know you were outraged about. Any democracy, freedom-loving American would be horrified by what the Chinese communists did Tiananmen Square. Trump praised it. In fact, today he says Japan should get a nuclear weapon. Korea should get a nuclear weapon. So he's for an ascendant communist China as it relates to human rights, and he's for nuclear proliferation all throughout Asia.
There's some very good people that Donald Trump is surrounding himself with. Jeff Sessions among many, who is one of the most level-headed, one of the most competent, capable senators.
I like Jeff Sessions. I have a problem with Donald Trump and what he's saying. How do you defend what he said about Russia and China?
Had you rather have Hillary Clinton? Because I had not. I know both of these people, and trust me on this. We can't have another 8 years of Obama policy.
So is the best defense of Trump hey, he's terrible,
You know
but
what
he's
I
only
think the best
slightly
defense
less
is? No.
terrible than Hillary Clinton.
I'll tell you the best defense. I think he's going to put America first. It's been a long time since we've had a president that put America above all other
That's just
interests.
a platitude,
And I think
Governor.
that matters.
That's just a platitude. Like, what? Can you respond to what Dan is saying?
Well, in what way? Because, yes, I just did respond.
Withdrawing from NATO. Putin wants America out of NATO. Putin wants NATO to collapse. Donald Trump wants
Trump
America
has said
out of
about NATO that he wants America to quit paying for all the expenses and us basically being played the chump.
Governor, you know what the state of the European economies are. If America stops funding NATO, NATO disappears.
But Dan, I know what the state of the American economy is. I know that Americans want America to start acting like a country that is on top rather than getting whipped
Can
like
I just
a
ask
bad
one last
dog.
question?
Quickly. Well,
When Donald Trump said, the Israelis and Palestinians, I'm going to cut a deal. It'll be the deal of a century, deal of a lifetime, as though they're sort of equal actors.
They're not equal.
You and I have
They
just
are
talked about
not
this,
equal.
that you've
No.
spent a lot of time in Israel.
And
You're a
is-
Zionist. You understand? Does that not worry you that he has such a complete lack of knowledge about the region, let alone a real connection to the state of Israel as it's dealing with a range of threats throughout the region?
I didn't agree with him on that, but I'm telling you this. I would rather have him because I think he is willing to learn about the big difference between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I don't think Hillary has the capacity to change her mind. I think she is ironclad.
I've been involved with Republican and conservative national security debates for decades. I'm sad to say that our nominee, the best we can say for him, is that he'll be slightly less worse than the Democratic
Oh, I
nominee.
gotta leave it at that. But this is fascinating. You can come back once a week. I get the block off. This is the best kind of debate because it's two really smart people who really believe what they're saying, and I appreciate it, both of you. That's good, right? It was good.